The stars above the Valoran colony shone bright, cold, and peaceful. No one there knew that by morning, those stars would watch over nothing but silence and ash. At midnight, a faint, broken transmission reached Earth's outer listening post. A human operator, a young man named Raj, was drinking cold coffee when the signal flashed red on his console. His eyes narrowed. It wasn't routine traffic. It wasn't any scheduled report. The frequency was marked Valoran's civilian distress. Raj leaned forward. "Valoran, it's a safe colony," he whispered to himself. He hit play. Static crackled, followed by a woman's voice, sharp, breathless. "This is Valoran. To any Earth vessel. ... We're under attack. ... Please, someone. ... The voice cut off mid-sentence. Only static remained. Raj froze for a second. His heart pounded. Protocol drilled into every operator said, "Report immediately." And that's what he did. He hit the emergency relay, sending the signal straight to Earth's Defense Command. Across the solar system, alarms lit up. But by the time Earth's fleet scrambled, it was already too late. 5 days later, Commander Elias stood on the bridge of the exploration battleship ESS Silverhawk. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Beside him stood Tactical Officer Zara, scanning readouts. "Coming out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, Zara said quietly. Elias didn't speak. His mind was on the signal. The broken message from Valoran. Earth's politicians had debated for 2 whole days. Some said ignore it, it might just be pirates. Others said send help. Elias didn't care what the politicians thought. His orders were clear: investigate and report. 5 seconds, Zara announced. Space stretched, twisted, and then snapped back to normal as the Silverhawk entered Valoran's orbit. Silence. Zara's face turned pale. "Sir, ... I'm not picking up any civilian comms. No life signals." Ilias's jaw tightened. He stared at the main view screen. The planet below was supposed to be blue and green, alive with forests, oceans, and shining cities. Instead, it looked gray, dead. "Scan again," Elias ordered. Zara's hands moved fast over her console. "Sir, ... I'm detecting massive energy signatures. Radiation, the cities are ... gone." The bridge fell silent. No one spoke. Elias walked closer to the screen. He leaned forward slowly, voice steady but cold. "Pair landing teams." 30 minutes later, landing shuttles descended through the smoky atmosphere of Valoran, the planets. Sky was filled with ash and dust. Buildings stood like broken teeth, their tops melted by extreme heat. Elias stepped off the shuttle with his Marines, boots crunching on blackened soil. A smell hung in the air: burned metal, burned stone, burned life. They moved through the ruins carefully, scanning for survivors. There were none. One soldier, Private Kane, called out, "Sir, found something." Elias walked over. Kane stood beside a small drone, half buried under rubble. Its camera lens was cracked, but its core flickered with a faint light. "A service drone," Zara said, checking its code. "Civilian model. Right. Looks like it was recording before it got hit." Elias knelt down beside it, his gloved hands working fast. The team had been trained for battlefield data recovery. Within minutes, he managed to connect his pad to the drone. The screen on Elias's pad blinked. Video feed ... recovered. He tapped play. The image showed a peaceful Valoran city. People walking, hover vehicles passing by. Then, without warning, the sky darkened. Massive alien ships descended from the clouds, firing streams of energy that tore through buildings and streets. Screams echoed through the drone's microphone. The attackers were fast, brutal, no warning, no communication, just pure destruction. Ilias's hand clenched into a fist. Zara's voice shook. "Sir, ... this wasn't pirates. This was an extermination." Back aboard the Silverhawk, Elias watched the footage again and again. Each time his face grew colder. He sent an encrypted message straight to Earth. Valoran colony destroyed. Attackers unknown. Full extinction event confirmed. Evidence recovered. Request immediate military response. For the next hour, Earth's command structure debated. But Elias didn't wait for orders. He sent his scouts to search for more clues. 2 hours later, they found one, a piece of alien hull plating. Marked with a strange symbol, one Earth's military intelligence had seen only in old classified files. Zaltar Dominion. A name that made even experienced commanders nervous. A brutal alien empire that had never clashed directly with humanity. Elias stood on the observation deck, staring down at the burned planet below. A young officer, Lieutenant Reyes, approached. "Sir, ... Earth Command wants to know our next move." Elias didn't answer at first. His hands were clasped behind his back. He spoke slowly, voice like steel. "They want to know our next move. Simple. We find the Zaltar." And then Elias turned. His face was calm, but his eyes ... his eyes burned. And we remind the galaxy what happens when you slaughter humans. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, word of Valoran's fall spread. In whispers, no official news broadcasts, no public announcements, but everyone knew. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings. Leaders of other species argued quietly. Many were afraid to anger the Zaltar. They had ruled parts of the galaxy for centuries. Ruthless, efficient, and now Earth had a reason to fight. Back on Earth, Admiral Corvus sat in the command center, watching the same drone footage Elias had recovered. He said nothing for a long time. Finally, he turned to his aide, prepared the Titan warship. "But sir, that ship hasn't been deployed in 10 years. Corvus's eyes were hard. "It is now." That night, as most of Earth slept, hidden bases lit up. Engineers and soldiers worked in silence. No news channels reported it. No politicians spoke about it. The world was getting ready for war, but only a few knew the truth. The Zaltar had awakened something older than their empire. They had awakened humanity's anger, and the galaxy would watch in silence. As Earth began to move, Silverhawk remained in Valoran orbit for 2 more days, gathering evidence, recovering what little remained. No survivors, no escape pods. Not even civilian vessels had been spared. Zara sat in the command room, eyes red from lack of sleep. Elias walked in, silent as ever. She stood. "Sir." "Final scans complete." "Anything?" Zara shook her head. "Just more wreckage. We're the only ones left." Ilias's jaw clenched slightly. "Then we set course for Earth." Zara hesitated. "Do you think they'll actually fight, sir? The Council? Other species?" Ilias's voice was quiet. "They'll watch, that's all." He glanced one last time at the dead planet on the screen.
Ow.
"But we won't wait." The Silverhawk turned away from Valoran, engines flaring as it slipped into hyperspace. Behind them, Valoran remained silent, but that silence was about to end. The Silverhawk glided through hyperspace, streaks of cold blue light outside its hull. Inside, there was no sound except the hum of the engines and quiet footsteps in the command deck. Commander Elias stood in front of the main screen, arms folded, his face a blank wall. But inside, his mind was not quiet. He could still hear the voice from that last Valoran message, the woman's voice, that final cry before silence. "ETA to Earth, 5 hours, Zara reported, her voice calm but dry. Everyone on the ship knew this wasn't a routine trip back. They carried the weight of a massacre in Earth's orbit. Hidden under Saturn's rings, the Titan-class warship waited. Its name was ESS Nemesis. Few people on Earth even remembered its name. Fewer still had ever seen it. 10 times the size of the Silverhawk. A weapon not meant for defense, but for revenge. Admiral Corvus stood inside the control center of Earth Defense Command. Watching the incoming live feed from the Silverhawk, he leaned forward as Elias's face appeared on the holoscreen. "Commander Elias," Corvus said, voice low. "Report." Elias gave a crisp nod, "Sir. Valoran is gone. No survivors. Evidence points to the Zaltar Dominion." Corvus said nothing for a long breath. Then he asked quietly, "Are you sure?" Elias's face didn't even flicker. The symbol was clear. Their warships, their weapons. It wasn't a raid. It was execution. Corvus turned to his aides and muttered, Prepare Nemesis for deployment. Then he looked back to Elias. Stand by, Commander. The world is about to change. Hours later, as the Silverhawk approached Earth orbit, the full Earth defense fleet was already moving. Ships emerging from hidden dry docks. Stations powering up weapons no one had used in decades. Elias watched from his bridge as the Nemesis activated. Its engines lit up. Power readings spiked so high they made the Silverhawk's systems flicker. Zara stood beside him. Sir, we're really going to do it? Elias glanced at her, his voice steady. Yes, but it'll start a war. Elias gave her a cold smile. It already started. On the ground, people in the cities watched the sky, wondering why extra ships moved today. No official word yet. News stations only reported minor military exercises, but the truth was spreading. Aboard Nemesis. The Titan-class warship's Captain Admiral Wren stood on the deck as thousands of engineers secured final systems. Her voice echoed through the ship. Weapon status: all Titan-class plasma arrays are charged. Shields online. Full spectrum. Wren's mouth twitched into a grim line. We're ready. Then, on all communication channels across Earth's military, the same message echoed. This is Admiral Corvus. Effective now. Operation Silent Vengeance is active. Repeat: Operation Silent Vengeance is active. The politicians weren't happy. Some council members argued. Some wanted to hold talks with the Galactic Council, ask for their help. But Elias's voice cut through them in a private transmission. His message wasn't public. It was meant only for Earth's high command. You can talk as long as you like, but Valoran is dead. And if we don't answer, the next colony will burn. That left the politicians no choice. 3 hours later, Earth's Titan fleet gathered at a classified jump point just beyond Pluto. Nemesis in the lead. It's followed by Silverhawk and dozens of smaller cruisers. Each ship's hull carried Earth's simple mark. The old Terran star, surrounded by 3 rings.
Ow.
No flashy colors. No banners, just silence and purpose. At the jump point, Admiral Corvus addressed them all through encrypted broadcast. Earth has waited long enough. The Zaltar Dominion crossed a line. We will not announce our movement. We'll not ask for permission. This is not war. This is vengeance. One by one, the ships powered up their hyperdrives. In a dark corner of the galaxy, far from Earth, Zaltar Prime sat quietly. The home world of the Zaltar Dominion. Skies filled with defense platforms, its ground ruled by high lords sitting in massive stone palaces. Inside the Dominion, War Council chamber, the High Warlord Sarek watched a report flashing across his data screen. Valoran colony destroyed, it read. Human response: unknown. Sarek clicked his tongue in annoyance. Humans are slow. They talk too much. His second-in-command grunted in agreement. They won't fight. They never do. But neither of them saw the silent fleet moving closer with each second. No announcements. No diplomats. Just ships built for destruction. Meanwhile, back on Earth, civilians slowly began to understand. It started small. Social media posts. Leaked video showing the Valoran footage cities burning. The screams. The silence afterward. Then it spread by nightfall. Earth's streets were filled with silent crowds standing in public squares, watching giant screens as military command prepared. There were no cheering crowds, no loud music, just quiet faces. People placing flowers in front of war memorials. Lighting candles for the dead they'd never met. Valoran had been a colony far away. But now, it felt personal. Everyone understood. One man, one colony. It didn't matter. Humanity remembered. The galaxy watched too. News feeds lit up across alien networks. Earth mobilizes Titan fleet. Unknown human warships leaving Sol system. Some species cheered in secret. Others whispered in fear. The Zaltar Dominion had ruled with an iron grip for centuries.
Oh.
No one had ever dared attack them directly. Until now, in the control room of Silverhawk, Zara watched the countdown clock. Jump in 10 seconds, Leah stood beside her. Prepare weapons, he ordered calmly. Sir, are we really going in blind? She asked. Elias didn't blink. We don't need to see. And as the final second ticked down, the Titan fleet vanished from Earth's skies in silence across the galaxy. The real battle was about to begin. Humanity had spoken not with words, but with ships. The galaxy's outer monitoring stations picked up the human fleet 6 hours after their jump. Silent. No diplomatic messages. No war declaration. Just warships moving with precise formation toward Zaltar space, inside the Zaltar Dominion. Many believed it was a bluff. In their vast history, they had seen rebellions crushed, empires burned, and small species surrender. But humans? They had never faced humans in open war. That would change today. Commander Elias stood aboard the Silverhawk, eyes locked on the navigation map. Red markers showed Zaltar defense lines. Green markers were Earth ships moving past, them undetected. The Titan fleet was using shadow drive technology, advanced stealth systems Earth had kept secret until now. No radio signals, no lights, no energy spikes. Just a silent army moving in the dark. Status? Elias asked quietly. Zara answered without looking up. We're within striking range in 30 minutes, sir? Elias nodded once. Good. Meanwhile, aboard Nemesis, Admiral Wren stood on the Titan bridge. The ship was so large her voice echoed slightly when she spoke. Prepare main cannons. She ordered, charge plasma capacitors. No mistakes. Her crew moved like a machine, each one trained for this exact moment. The galaxy watched through secret observers. Thousands of hidden drones recorded Earth's fleet closing in on the Zaltar Dominion homeworld. One alien reporter, broadcasting to a neutral system, spoke in a low voice. This is unprecedented. No species has ever dared attack Zaltar. Prime, the humans. They are truly doing it. At that same moment, inside the Zaltar Dominion's capital, High Warlord Serok finally realized the danger. Humans have breached our border, he shouted, slamming a clawed hand onto his command table. His generals trembled. Yes, Warlord. Multiple Earth warships approaching prime orbit. Mobilize the fleet, Sarek roared. But it was already too late. 20 minutes later, the Titan fleet arrived in Zaltar prime orbit. Nemesis led the formation, emerging from stealth mode. The ship's black hull reflected the pale sun of Zaltar prime. Behind it, dozens of Earth warships followed like a steel storm on the edge of the sky. Inside the Silverhawk, Zara's breath caught in her throat as the sight unfolded. We made it, ... double quotes, she whispered. Elias said nothing. His hands rested behind his back, his eyes calm as ice. Zaltar defense platforms powered up. Thousands of alien fighters launched from the surface. Energy beams fired, but the Titan fleet did not move. Admiral Wren's voice echoed across all channels. Fire, and the sky turned white. Titan-class plasma cannons unleashed their fury. Beams thicker than city towers smashed through Zaltar platforms like paper. Ships exploded in silent bursts of flame. Inside the Silverhawk, even hardened officers stared in awe. Da, Zara whispered. It's beautiful. Within moments, the first line of Zaltar defenses was gone. On the ground, the Zaltar people looked up into their green skies and saw Earth's ships blotting out their sun. Panic spread. Civilians ran through the streets. Sirens wailed. Sarek shouted orders in vain. His palace trembled as distant explosions rocked the city. This cannot be, Sarek hissed. We are the Dominion. The Dominion was already falling. Commander Elias gave a single order, begin ground deployment. Dropships launched from Titan-class vessels. Earth's elite Marines Equinox Division descended like falling stars. The Zaltar army tried to resist. It didn't matter. Gravity pulse rifles, neural disruptors, shockwave grenades. Earth had come prepared for this fight. Every weapon designed not just to defeat, but to overwhelm. Across the galaxy, silent watchers saw what was happening, and no one stepped in. The Galactic Council, once so quick to issue statements and peace talks, said nothing. Other species, once terrified of the Zaltar, stayed quiet, because deep down, they all remembered Valoran. They all remembered Earth's silence after the massacre. Now they saw the price being paid. Inside the Silverhawk's command room, a call came through. Commander Admiral Wren's voice said, Main fortress neutralized. We are mopping up. Elias didn't smile. His voice stayed steady. Understood. Then, turning to Zara, he gave the final order of the day. Broadcast. Zara hesitated only a second. Then she pressed the button. Across the galaxy, on every major frequency, one message echoed in clear, simple human English. This is Commander Elias of Earth's Titan fleet. The Zaltar Dominion has fallen. They murdered Valoran. We have answered. We will not occupy. We will not enslave. But know this. If you ever touch a human world again, the message paused. Then Elias's final words, you will hear from us. The transmission cut off. No. And for the first time in recorded galactic history, the galaxy stood in total silence. No one argued, no one questioned, because the Zaltar were gone. Hours later, on Zaltar Prime, as the last human dropships lifted off, Commander Elias stood on a landing platform, staring up at the sky. Beside him, Zara asked quietly, "Is it really over?" Elias answered after a long moment, "For now." In the distance, a human flag flew from the ruins of the Zaltar War Council building. Not as a mark of conquest, but as a reminder. Humanity had answered, and the galaxy had watched in silence. The stars above Zaltar Prime no longer felt calm. The war had ended, but silence lingered like smoke after a fire. Earth's Titan fleet remained in orbit for several days, not as conquerors, but as watchers. Commander Elias walked along the observation deck of the Silverhawk, his boots making quiet sounds against the metal floor. His face was as calm as ever, but those standing nearby could feel the weight in his steps. It wasn't victory in his eyes, it was memory. Behind him, Zara stepped quietly. "Sir, final ground teams are boarding. Zaltar cities are secure." Elias. "Didn't turn civilians? Most of them unharmed? We kept our word. No unnecessary strikes." Elias gave a slow nod. Across the galaxy, news of the Dominion's fall spread like wildfire. Some species couldn't believe it, others said. They had expected it. In quiet rooms, council members whispered about how dangerous Earth had become. But Earth didn't make speeches. There were no grand parades. Only silence. Admiral Wren's voice came through on Silverhawk's main channel. "Commander Elias, status report." Elias spoke quietly, eyes still on the stars. "Operation complete. Awaiting final orders." Admiral Wren paused for a long second before replying, her voice lower now. "Earth Command says, return home." At those words, something inside. Elias loosened like a gear finally slowing down after spinning too long. "Understood," he said. One by one, the Titan fleet's ships turned away from Zaltar Prime. Engines powered up. But there was no fanfare, no music, only quiet. Down on the planet, the remaining Zaltar citizens watched the sky, some in fear, others in strange relief. The Titans weren't staying. Humanity wasn't building an empire. They had come for one reason only, to answer what had been done to Valoran. Aboard the Silverhawk, Zara walked beside Elias in silence for a while, before finally asking, "Sir ... why didn't we take control? We could have ruled them, made sure it never happened again." Elias stopped walking. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said simply, "Because that's not who we are." Zara nodded once, slowly understanding. Humanity's strength wasn't about holding power. It was about reminding others why it shouldn't be tested. As the Silverhawk prepared to jump, a message pinged on the long-range scanner. A faint transmission from a neutral trade ship nearby. The crew debated for a second, but Zara looked at Elias. He gave a small nod. "Let's hear it." The message was short. A voice from an alien merchant captain. "We saw what you did. Earth, and we won't forget." There was no threat in the voice, no anger, only quiet respect. Zara smiled faintly as she closed the channel. "Looks like word's really out." Elias didn't answer, but in his eyes there was something new. Something. Quieter than pride. It was the same feeling soldiers had when walking away from a grave knowing they had done what needed to be done. Minutes later, hyperspace engines activated. The Titan fleet vanished from Zaltar space, leaving behind only wreckage and memory. Earth, people stood on rooftops, beaches, and streets, staring up into the sky, waiting. Giant screens around the world had gone quiet after Elias's message days ago. Now, they flickered back on, and then the first Titan ship appeared, Nemesis. Dropped out of hyperspace in Earth's orbit, followed by the rest of the fleet. No bright lights, no dramatic music, just cold. Quiet steel against the stars. The world watched as the ships came home. Commander Elias stood once again on the Silverhawk's bridge, this time with a softer look on his face. Zara beside him, and the rest of the crew quiet. Admiral. Corvus's voice came through again from Earth Command. Welcome home, Titan Fleet. Elias gave a simple reply. Mission complete. Later that night, as Earth ships docked and crews disembarked, there were no grand speeches, no medals given, only families reunited, soldiers hugging loved ones, friends clapping each other on the back. But on Valoran's old frequency, something new happened. A small beacon had been placed in orbit, where the colony once stood a quiet memorial. And on its broadcast channel, one message repeated in basic galactic language: to those who were lost, to those who remember, humanity stands. On a faraway world, a child from another species watched the message and asked their mother, "What does that mean?" The mother only smiled softly and said, "It means, don't ever make the same mistake," because the galaxy understood. Now, the Zaltar Dominion had believed in power. Humanity believed in something else: memory, patience, and, when pushed too far, silent vengeance. And though the stars had watched everything in silence, they would carry the memory of it forever. The Titan fleet remained in Earth's orbit, still and quiet. Ships that had crossed half the galaxy now floated like watchful giants. Commander Elias stood alone in the observation deck of Silverhawk, looking down at Earth. City lights twinkled across the continents. For the first time in days, there was peace. But deep inside Elias, there was no celebration. His mind kept returning to Valoran, the peaceful colony, now just ash and memory. Behind him, Zara approached quietly. "Sir," she said, voice calm, "Earth Command requests a full debrief in 2 hours." Elias gave a small nod but didn't turn around. His voice was steady. "Not yet." Zara waited a moment. Then she stepped beside him, following his gaze. "It's strange, all this quiet." After so much noise, Elias said nothing. Down on Earth, across thousands of cities, people gathered in public squares. News channels replayed footage clips of the Titan fleet firing plasma cannons, Zaltar platforms falling, and Elias's simple message: this is not war. This is vengeance. But the mood on Earth was not loud. There were no parties, no cheering. Just candles, flags, and silent. Crowds standing side by side. In one city, an old woman placed a single flower beneath a statue. The statue wasn't of a soldier, it was of a family holding hands. Underneath, a plaque read, "Valoran remembered." At the same time, far beyond Earth, in the remains of Zaltar space, scavenger ships picked through wreckage, rusted parts, melted defense platforms, empty cities. No Zaltar ships remained, and yet one thing surprised the scavengers. A message beacon, still active. The beacon played a single sentence over and over again. "If you strike humanity once, we will answer forever." The galaxy understood now. Earth had no interest in controlling others, didn't want to conquer, but it would never forget. And it would never allow another Valoran. Back on Silverhawk, Elias finally spoke again. His voice was low, almost like he was thinking out loud rather than giving an order. "Zara, open a personal channel." "To who, sir?" "Anyone?" "Listening." Zara gave him a questioning look, but obeyed. The channel opened, broadcast across neutral systems, open frequencies, trader networks. Elias leaned forward, speaking in simple words. "This is Commander Elias. Earth ships are returning home. We don't claim Zaltar space. We don't seek new territory, but let all of you remember. Valoran." He paused a moment, letting silence fill the channel. "When you look at the sky and see Earth ships ... No, we only fly for one reason, to protect our own. We have no flag to plant, no empire to build. But our silence is not weakness. If there is peace, we will keep it. If there is war, we will end it. He tapped the console himself, ending the message. Zara exhaled slowly. Sir, do you think they'll listen? Elias glanced at her. For the first time in days, a small smile touched his face. They're already listening. That night, the Titan fleet's ships lowered their alert status. Lights dimmed, engines cooled. Crew members who had lived in combat mode for weeks finally rested. Across Silverhawk, soldiers sat quietly in common rooms, eating meals. No loud talk, just quiet glances and tired faces. But in each of them was the same thing: pride without arrogance, strength without cruelty. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council, leaders gathered in silence. No one dared speak first. They all had seen the same footage, heard the same message. One counselor from a smaller species finally broke the silence. What do we do about Earth? He asked quietly. The others looked at each other. Finally, the oldest among them said, Nothing. The others frowned. The old counselor spoke again. We leave them alone. We learn. We remember. No votes. No debates. No? Just quiet. Agreement. In a distant human city, a young girl named Aisha sat on her apartment balcony, looking up at the stars with her father. She pointed. Daddy, is that one of the big ships? Her father followed her finger. What? A tiny light moved slowly across. The sky? Yes, he said. That's one of ours. She asked, Will they come back here? He smiled gently. They always do. Across the universe, the story of Earth's vengeance became legend, told in quiet bars, space stations, forgotten colonies. They said, if you ever see a black Titan ship appear in orbit, step aside. It means someone did something terrible. In the end, there were no more attacks on human colonies. No more silent massacres like Valoran. Because now, everyone knew. Earth didn't shout. Earth didn't boast. It simply waited, and when pushed too far, it moved like a storm, silent, sudden, and unstoppable. And the galaxy watched in silence. You said. The stars above Earth remained calm, but across the galaxy, fear still lingered. Though the Titan fleet had returned home, its memory lived on in every corner of known space. No species, no empire, dared speak against humanity now. Inside Earth. Defense Command, high above the planet in a station orbiting the moon, Admiral Corvus stood before a large display screen. It showed quiet footage from Zoltar Prime, empty streets, silent skies. Commander Elias stood beside him, arms folded. Expression calm as ever. Corvus glanced at him. It's been 1 month, Elias simply nodded. They haven't rebuilt, Corvus added. Not yet, Elias spoke quietly. They will, but it won't be the same. Across Earth, things had returned to normal at least on the surface. Cities glowed with light again. Markets reopened. Families gathered in parks. But there was a difference now. No one forgot. At military academies, new cadets trained harder than ever. Young recruits learned about Valoran and history lessons. It wasn't just a colony that had fallen. It was a lesson for all humanity. Never assume peace will last forever. Meanwhile, in the wider galaxy, quiet discussions happened in council chambers and back rooms. New trade agreements were signed. Former allies of the Zoltar Dominion scrambled to distance themselves. And still, Earth said nothing. No demands, no tribute, no territories claimed. Just silence. Inside the Silverhawk docked above Earth, Zara walked through quiet halls. The ship felt strangely empty now. Half the crew was on leave. Maintenance. Teams worked slowly, not in any hurry. She stepped onto the observation deck and found Elias standing there again, as always. Sir, she greeted softly. Elias gave a small nod but didn't say anything at first. Zara joined him, looking out at Earth below. It feels... quiet. Elias's voice was low. That's how it should be. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Then Zara said, There's talk in the council. Some species are afraid. We'll strike again. Elias gave a dry smile. We won't. Not unless we must. Zara turned her head, watching him closely. What do you know? Elias's eyes didn't leave the stars. His answer was calm and simple. Because vengeance isn't our nature. It's just what happens when someone forgets. Down on the planet, a memorial was being finished in one of Earth's largest cities. It wasn't a towering statue or a grand military figure. It was a simple stone wall. On that wall, the names of every lost soul from Valoran had been carved row after row. Children's names, workers, scientists, families, people from all walks of life, now remembered in silence. The memorial had no music playing, no speeches. People simply came, stood in front of it, and placed flowers. Among them was a boy named Rami. He stood with his mother, staring up at the wall. "Mom," he asked quietly, "why did they do it?" His mother knelt beside him, her voice soft. "Because some people only understand force." Rami's brow furrowed. "Will it happen again?" She looked up at the sky. Maybe, but not for a long time, because the galaxy had changed. In far-off regions, pirate clans disbanded. Minor warlords sent messages of peace. Old enemies reconsidered their plans. One thing connected all their choices: the memory of Earth's silent fleet. Back on Silverhawk, a message arrived. Zara checked the console and glanced at Elias. "Sir, a civilian request." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Civilian." She nodded. "It's from Valoran survivors, families from other colonies. Asking if they can visit the site." Elias didn't answer right away. Then he gave a short nod. "Send them clearance. The Silverhawk itself would escort them. Because some places, no matter how silent now, deserve to be remembered." A week later, as the Silverhawk moved once again toward the Valoran system, it wasn't carrying weapons or soldiers, it carried families. Elias stood on the observation deck, as always, this time watching as they approached the burned world once more. Below, blackened forests and ruined cities remained. But here and there, signs of life had begun to return. Grass sprouting between ruins, winds clearing the ash. The first civilian shuttles landed on the planet's surface. Men, women, and children stepped out quietly, carrying flowers, flags, small lights. Zara stood beside Elias and asked softly, "Sir, ... do you think this was worth it?" Elias's reply was simple. Yes, because this was not about war anymore. It was about remembering. As families placed lights in the ruins of Valoran's old cities, Silverhawk hovered quietly above like a silent guardian. There were no cameras, no news crews, just people and silence. Across the galaxy, the same feeling spread, a quiet understanding. The name Earth no longer meant just a world with powerful ships. It meant a promise that no matter how dark things became, someone would always stand up. Even if it meant standing alone. Even if it meant waiting in silence until the right moment. And as the stars watched from above, it felt like even they remembered. The galaxy would never forget again. Earth's Titan fleet had returned home, yet the galaxy remained restless. Months had passed since the fall of the Zaltar Dominion, but echoes of that moment still lived in every conversation. Every news report, every quiet message sent between distant worlds. Inside Earth's Defense Command, Commander Elias sat in a quiet conference room, away from the usual noise of the fleet. No screens blared, no alarms sounded. Just him, sitting in silence with a cup of cold tea in his hand. Soft knock came from the door. Zara entered, carrying a tablet. "Sir, reports from the outer colonies," she said calmly. Elias glanced up. His voice was as quiet as ever. "Anything serious?" Zara shook her head. "No, nothing like Valoran again." That sentence lingered in the room. Nothing like Valoran? That was all anyone really cared about now. Whether peace would hold, Elias set the cup down, stood slowly, and walked to the window. Earth spun, below clouds drifting lazily, oceans shining blue. It looked peaceful, but he knew better. Zara joined him at the window. After a moment of silence, she spoke again, her voice lower now. There's something else. From the council. Elias glanced sideways. What is it? They've requested. A summit. They want to meet with us. Officially. For the first time since the Dominion fell. Elias didn't speak right away. His eyes stayed on Earth. Finally he asked, Where? Neutral territory. Hallian Station. Middle of nowhere. Elias folded his arms. They want to talk now. But not before. Zara gave a small, tired smile. Now they understand. A week later, the Silverhawk led a small escort fleet to Hallian Station, a neutral platform floating in deep space. Far from any Empire's direct control, it wasn't large. No defense weapons. No armies. Just a place for quiet talks. As Elias stepped off Silverhawk's shuttle ramp, the station's atmosphere felt strangely still. Representatives from dozens of species stood waiting, some tall, some short, some so alien-looking they barely seemed real. But all of them were quiet when Elias entered. Zara walked beside him, hand resting near her sidearm just in case. The council's lead representative, a tall, silver-skinned diplomat from the Thalra species, stepped forward. Commander, Elias, he said in a smooth, controlled voice. We are grateful you agreed to meet. Elias gave a small nod, nothing more. Let's talk. Inside the station's main hall, everyone gathered around a round table. There were no raised voices, no shouting, just quiet conversation. One representative finally spoke what everyone else had been thinking. Earth has shown power beyond what many believed. The council, seeks understanding. Elias leaned forward slightly. His voice was calm but steady. We didn't act to impress anyone, he said. We acted because we had no choice. The Thalra diplomat replied carefully, but if humanity had chosen not to answer Valoran's destruction, could have meant peace for all. At that, Elias's eyes hardened just slightly. That wouldn't have been peace, he said quietly. That would have been silence bought with fear. The room stayed still. No one interrupted. Elias continued. We don't seek war. We don't ignore it either. Earth won't start fights, but we will end them, another counselor asked nervously. And what about the Zaltar territories? Will Earth expand now? Elias gave a short final answer. No, we're not here to rule, only to protect. The meeting ended without a treaty, but something more important had been achieved. Understanding. The galaxy finally believed Earth's true nature. When Elias and Zara returned to Silverhawk, they stood again on the observation deck as the fleet prepared to leave Hallian Station. Zara looked over at him. Think they'll listen this time? Elias didn't smile, but there was a quieter look in his eyes. They already are. As Silverhawk's engines lit up and the fleet moved away, Did Galaxy watched again, with fear this time, but with quiet respect. On distant worlds, small colonies that once feared invasion now carried Earth's flag alongside their own, not as a symbol of control, but as a reminder. On Valoran's ruins, plants had begun growing again. New settlers had arrived, not soldiers, but families. Rebuilding slowly, carefully. The beacon placed in orbit still broadcasted the same message, on loop, for anyone passing by. If you strike humanity once, we will answer forever. And now. No one doubted that message anymore. The stars remained silent, but the silence was not fear, it was respect, you said. The galaxy settled into a strange, quiet rhythm. Months had passed since Earth's Titan fleet destroyed the Zaltar Dominion. Yet the memory of it stayed fresh in every system, every council meeting, and every backroom deal. Humanity, however, did not act as conquerors. Earth returned to its old life colonies, rebuilding, ships exploring, families working. The Titan fleet stayed in orbit or docked. No new wars, no new demands. But under that peace, everyone knew it could all change. Again, with a single mistake. Inside Earth's Defense Command, Commander Elias stood once more in the command hall. Zara walked up beside him, holding a tablet. Sir, latest reports from the outer colonies. Elias took it, scanning quickly. Anything unusual? Zara shook. Her head trades up. No border incidents. Even the old pirate clans are keeping quiet. Elias glanced toward the widescreen showing Earth's system in full. His voice came out slow and steady. They remember. At that same moment, across the galaxy, smaller empires and free world alliances quietly updated their military doctrines. Not to fight Earth, but to avoid becoming the next Zaltar. In one neutral system, a trader ship captain spoke to his crew, voice calm as he watched Earth's sector marked on his nav screen. Stay clear of Sol. Always, if you see a black Titan ship, you turn around. Fast. Back on Earth, things continued as normal. Families gathered in parks, students studied at academies, but everywhere subtle reminders were visible. Posters in spaceports. Remember Valoran? Quiet memorial lights in city squares. Titan class. Warships visible overhead, silent guardians. One evening, Elias sat alone in Silverhawk's observation deck. No orders, no reports, just watching the stars. Zara entered quietly, standing beside him without saying anything for a long while. Finally, she asked, "Sir, do you think they'll ever forget again?" Elias answered after a pause. "Maybe. One day. That's how things work. Someone always forgets." Zara frowned slightly. "Then what happens?" Elise's voice was calm, unchanging. "Then we remind them." The next day, Earth Defense Command released a simple broadcast across all neutral channels. Not a threat, not a warning, just a message meant to be remembered. Humanity stands ready. We seek peace, but we do not forget. Across the galaxy. Countless species paused as the message came through their screens. No one responded. No one needed to. In secret council chambers, alien leaders updated their maps. They placed Earth not just as another planet, but as a force of balance. Quiet. Waiting. Months later, as new colonies were founded, children on distant worlds would ask, "Why don't we bother the humans?" Their parents would reply in calm, quiet voices, because when the galaxy tried once, it watched in silence, ... as Earth answered. And high above in the cold black sky, Titan-class warships drifted like silent giants, waiting for the day they would be needed again. But until then, the stars and the galaxy remained quiet.